Here on GoPSUSports.com with our newest Nittany Lion head coach. I'm here with Jeff Kampersal, and Coach, welcome to Happy Valley.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So it's been a couple of weeks since you've arrived here on campus. Tell me a little bit about, what it was like arriving here and the first time you kind of saw Pegula Ice Arena.
Yeah, well, the first time I came to Penn State, it was a week before my interview, and I'm not necessarily sure what I was expecting. My expectations were blown out of the water. The campus was amazingly quaint, like cozy, comfortable. The people were genuinely passionate about Penn State. So that's what, no matter what sort of face that I dealt with them, they all were passionate about Penn State. And so that kind of excited me. I went through the interview process a week later and started to come back and visit like elementary schools if I was to be able to get the job and whatnot for my two kids, and just really like enjoyed the area, and have gotten up and going. Everybody's been like super helpful getting me started. It's amazing, like things get done like really fast, and there's so much help, so many resources, and it's just a great start so far.
I think it's been, 21 years being such a successful head coach at Princeton and a Princeton alum. What was it about Penn State that kind of attracted you? I know you mentioned the pride and the passion, but what ultimately was the one thing that made the family want to make that switch?
Well, I've been part of Princeton University since I was 18 years old as an undergraduate student there. 21 years with the women's team. I absolutely love all those players that I coached. It was difficult to leave, but what made Penn State attractive is that the academics are really important here, and the sports are big time. So to walk into a place like Pegula, which is by far in a way the nicest rink that I've seen, again inside with the weight room, the training room, all the resources here that the student athletes have to succeed. The AD put a lot of emphasis on that being a focal point of campus, and I took my NCAA test there, and it was just like state of the art, awesome. And so they have so many things available to them, and that's what excited me about this opportunity at Penn State.
And speaking of that combination of academics and athletics, Sandy always mentions our vision at Penn State, preparing student athletes for a lifetime of success. What can we kind of expect from a Jeff Kampersal women's ice hockey team in terms of on the ice and off the ice?
Well, we want to create an environment where the players are excited to come to the rink every day. We will put the focus on student and athlete, so to create a balance to let them know that academics are important. The hockey's obviously important. We want to do we want to treat our bodies well. We want to train hard. We want to get in great shape. We want to strike like good balance, and we'll preach that. We'll preach discipline, and most of all, I think we'll preach gratefulness. So the students get a lot here. So I talk about the resources and how amazing it is, but they're so lucky, and we want to make sure that they're appreciative of it. My first day of work, I walked in, and Ben had Ben had put like a pile of Penn State gear on my desk, and I was like, whoa. And so I'd mentioned like how the players received their gear, and I think they all got it in like one full swoop. And so we're going to try to switch it up a little bit and make them earn it as a team. And so just so again, like they appreciate like what they're getting, and they're grateful for the people who are giving it to them, and again, like the resources that they have here. So,
as you mentioned, kind of being able to get here and then get out on the road recruiting, what has that process been like, and what are you kind of looking for in that ideal Penn State student athlete?
Yeah, well, I've been on the road to Minnesota, to Rochester, to Maine, to Massachusetts, and heading to a couple places as well coming up. But in terms of just pure hockey, we look for players who skate really well, players who play with their head up and have a sense of the game and competitiveness. So what's happening in women's hockey, the recruiting's like so early now, like we're recruiting 9th graders and 10th graders, and so you have to be careful because their development might not be there all the way yet, but it's a good start to get the Penn State brand out to these areas that we're going to. But those key, like competitiveness, discipline, skating, those are the players that we'll look for, and then we'll do homework in terms of calling their club coaches and identifying like what kind of character they have and how hard they're focusing on their academics, and combining everything together, and then create a very short list and just focus on our main kids and try to get them here at Penn State.
And going off of that a little bit more, every great coach has their coaching philosophy. What can you say about your coaching philosophy and how you plan to kind of integrate that to Penn State?
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot from the coaches that I've coached with or I played under. Like my coach at Princeton was Don Cahoon. I learned a lot from him. I was very fortunate to go through USA Hockey System under Coach Ben Smith, and those guys had both a lot of Boston University influence, which has had a big impression on me. And then later on, like working with somebody like Coach Gutowski at Princeton, and then Coach Fogarty, who's at Princeton now, I learned a little bit of everything. But for me to sort of distinguish myself from them, just focus on habits are really important, and to try to get them right before you move on to something else. So like we'll let the players play. They'll be creative, but there is some structure to how we'll play. But hopefully it's an exciting brand of hockey. Kind of shoot from everywhere, defend hard, be tenacious. That's a word that we'll focus on this year. We want to be really tenacious. And as a sidebar story, just 10 years ago when Coach Gutowski was coach of Princeton, someone had written an article about his team and compared them to the 80 Oilers, when the rest of the teams in the ECAC were like the trapping devils. And so that quote always stuck with me as well. And so the players want to play and score goals and have fun, and so that's what we'll try to create here as well.
Have you spoken to Coach Gutowski at all, kind of about being able to now be at the same place again? Anything interesting about that?
Yeah, we'll share a lot. He's open to help and being a mentor, which is great. We actually took a golf cart tour, another one, not the different one from my first day, but another one in terms of hitting all the key spots in terms of how we want to tour our prospective student athletes.
Interesting. You mentioned USA Hockey a little bit.
Yeah.
What have those experiences meant to you, and how have they kind of shaped your coaching vision and the way you are as a coach?
Yeah, I had a chance in, I think, actually from the very beginning of time, I was lucky enough to be part of, say, Olympic selections in '98, '02, and '06, and then later on coaching the under-18 team in 13 and 14. So it's a great experience to learn from other coaches. It's a great experience to work with elite players and see how dedicated they are to their craft and getting better. So again, I've been definitely fortunate in terms of my USA Hockey experience.
And obviously, switching gears a little bit, you've gotten right to work selecting your staff. What can you tell me about the two people that you've brought on campus?
Yeah. Well, Allison Kumi will be the first assistant, and she comes from Boston University. She played and graduated at Niagara and played under Coach Margot Page, who is a great coach and somebody they have a lot of respect for. So, and then learning under Brian DeRocher and Katie LaChapelle at BU. She has a lot of experience. She's genuine, super nice, but tough and fair. Really good communicator. She'll help change the culture for sure, and just hockey knowledge speaks for itself. So we're excited for her. And then Celeste Brown, also excited for her. Celeste played at RET under Scott McDonald, who again I have a lot of respect for. Was an NWHL player, coached under Kristen Steele at Conn College, and Kristen's been around for a while and has been a good mentor for Celeste, and actually for Allison as well. She worked with Allison for a year at Conn College. So there's going to be good chemistry between us. We'll all work hard. We'll sort of split responsibilities. So one person's not doing one specific thing all the time. I would never, with the assistant coaches that I've had, I would never ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. But in terms of say splitting up kids, recruiting, we'll do responsibilities on the ice. We haven't figured out how we'll run the bench or anything like that. But we have a lot of time not a lot of time, but we'll have time in July and August to sort of get those ideas mapped out so we can present them clearly to the players.
You mentioned changing the culture, as a unit, how do you guys kind of, shift that culture and develop it and really grow it, and kind of what's the first steps?
Yeah, well, something that I did, I think, well in the beginning of my career at Princeton, and maybe not so well towards the end, but just getting to know the players like inside out, develop good relationships with them, let them know that you care. There was a good time, a good stretch where I was going to classes with the players, and partially because I wanted to see what they were up to, and then also do something different myself and learn, even if it was a 1-hour history class or chemistry class, I could learn something. So that's what I plan to do at Penn State, like once we get up and running, to try to see them on campus, out of the hockey world, and get to know them a little bit better. That's important, and Allison and Celeste will do the same thing. Allison and Celeste will have different sort of privileges in the locker room that I won't have, that they can sort of like build camaraderie with the players, and I think that's really important. And so that's why the genuineness and the character of both Allison and Celeste will be really important and integral in changing the culture. And I don't think it has to change too much. The players that I've met have been amazing. I've met the Minnesotans out in Minnesota. Met some of the freshmen already. Like they're all great people so far, and it just they need to be guided in the right direction, and to make sure that like hockey, school are the most important things beyond family, but the most important things at Penn State, and to focus on in those two areas. But.
And then finally, just maybe a little bit more big picture, what's kind of the most exciting thing? You're getting here, you're taking all of these steps to, get staff in place and get out recruiting, but, what's the most exciting piece of being here, and, what you're expecting?
Yeah, well, we're expecting to compete hard, no question. We want to win, right away, like each particular game. Like it's not like I don't necessarily look too far ahead, just on every Friday, Saturday that comes up, to focus on that opponent. But bigger picture, I know that that Pagula is going to host the 2022 final NCAA Final Four, and that's definitely a goal of ours to be in that and be a part of it and be in the conversation of that. But for me personally and my family, just to experience like Penn State, to experience the other coaches on campus. There's a lot of, all of them are successful. To get my kids, and like they play a little bit of hockey, but they do a little bit of all sports, but to maybe learn lacrosse from the lacrosse coaches, or swim from the swim coaches. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Well, thank you so much, and best of luck this season.
Thank you.